counterbalance deck post board. Game 1, we are on, I want to say it's a 59 card mirror almost.
It looks very, very close. I know that James has a main deck Sensei's Divine Top where Bob does not, but we are looking at basically a mirror match here between these Jeskai Delver decks. So this should be a lot of fun as a Wasteland is going to take care of a Tundra here. So Pogue is taking the mana advantage right away.
Yeah, 58 card overlap. James has a main deck, a third Swords and a Divining Top, whereas Bob has 2 Red Blasts in the main.
Pogue will be the first one to play a spell, and it's going to be a copy of Stoneforge Mystic. That is resolving. It is searching. It's getting Umezawa's Jite. Bob says, well, I'm going to Swords that right now, if you don't mind. Do you have a Daze, perhaps? Maybe a Force of Will? We will see.
Yeah. A lot of this early game is positional play. The decks have more answers than they do have threats. The card you have to watch out for here is the best threat in both decks, which is the 3 copies of True Name Nemesis that they both have.
Perhaps a stare down from the Merfolk sooner or later here.
Yeah.
Bob looking at a Force of Will, 2 copies of Brainstorm, a couple of lands there too, and a very powerful Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah, so they both get equipment here, and the Stoneforges are good on both sides, but I don't think either player really expects them to live. You see cards Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares on both sides. I know not to oversimplify, but the True Name Nemesis is so much the prize that you're going to see both players just play like that's the only card here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Where there's a world where Bob can say, okay, I'll Force Will this Lightning Bolt and hopefully my creature lives, and then I get a Batter Skull into play or a Jite or what have you, and kind of move forward from there. But I agree with you. I think the players will be fighting over True Name Nemesis with their Force of Wills and other counter spells. Speaking of True Name Nemesis, it has now been drawn by James with this Brainstorm. A couple cards are going to go back.
Yeah, so he can put back. He does have the Batter Skull that he found here. He may just be able to, I think a lot of it's a card advantage game. You may see him put back some of his equipment so he can re-find it. I will be interested to see how much the players fight over a card like Treasure Cruise. See, James Pogue does have one of those. You do want to fight the counter war over True Name Nemesis. However, drawing 3 for 1 mana is pretty appealing too.
It's pretty hard to say no, that's for sure. So I'm going to sacrifice the Polluted Delta, search up a land here, will James. We'll see if he has a follow-up play. It'll be a Ponder here, so we'll take a look at the top 3 cards. Wasteland, a Delver of Secrets, and a little bit of a mystery. Don't have a great look at the other card here, but we do know the players that have drawn to the top 8. Tom Ross got paired against Brian Brown to win. They're drawing in. And then Royce Walter, who is playing Storm, drawing with Philip Schoenegger.
Good man. We have a combo deck. We didn't have any of them undefeated on day 1, but we got one in the top 8.
You are unreasonably happy about this.
The death of combo has been overstated.
A little bit. We'll see how it performs in the top 8. For you Storm fans out there, Royce Walter is carrying the flag for you.
If you were worried about people beating lands, let me tell you, that matchup, Storm can do it.
You're probably okay.
You're probably okay.
Yeah, no, jeez, no kidding.
All right.
Bob's going to resolve a Brainstorm here. He's got a lot of options. You see a Bolt and the Red Elemental Blast been added to his hand. Flooded Strand looks like it's going to be one of the cards that does go back. Players are just jockeying for position at this point. That's really all this is. But I think the battle will be over True Name Nemesis, which I thought James did have, but it was actually a copy of Treasure Cruise. So that might be another card that they do have interest in fighting over. But again, when these players have worked with each other on the deck, they probably test against each other too.
It's interesting. You wouldn't think that a 58 card mirror, that's basically 60, right? But when you actually look at their hands here, these cards like Red Elemental Blast that Bob has in his hand, that's going to be really huge in this upcoming counter war. People have been main decking them specifically to counter the card Treasure Cruise, and we're going to see that play out. There's a Treasure Cruise in Pogue's hand. There's a Red Blast in Bob's.
There's Delver of Secrets. A quick shrugging of the shoulders says, that's fine. I don't really care about that. How about this Umezawa's Jite? Hey, he's going to think about that one. You can see him right there on the left.
He's got a GT of his own. He can maybe answer all of Pogue's creatures. He does have a Lightning Bolt. He has a GT of his own. If he ever connects with that, he'll be great.
He's looking at Force Will and Brainstorm. And look, he was thinking about it. He says, all right, I'm not going to do that. Bolt your Delver. Keep moving and grooving. Not going to worry too much about your Jite. It is a scary card, of course. He'll sacrifice the Flooded Strand on his upkeep, so he doesn't draw the cards that he's put back before moving forward and taking a draw step. He also has to be wary of a card like Daze, where, again, if he knows James' deck list, and these guys did play together, and I assume test together as they worked on the deck together, he knows there's 3 laying around here.
Right. So they have to play around a lot of things here. You start seeing players eventually almost want to shuffle away some of these cards. Like Force of Will is actually a pretty weak card in this matchup, just because of how much they're battling over card advantage. They're posturing for a time when one of them wants to fight over True Name Nemesis. So what does that mean? It means that treasure cruises are really important. It means that hard counters, I guess things like Red Elemental Blast, they're very important. Cards like Umezawa's GT get to resolve on both sides.
There's a Wasteland going to take down the Wasteland over there. We'll pass the turn back. So GT's in play and 3 lands in play. Players kind of mirroring each other, but James has drawn an interesting one. He's drawn his one of Sensei's Divining Top.
Yeah, so now we'll get to see it's the one of Divining Top versus one of the main deck Red Blast. This is one of the few differences in their deck. As to which of them is better in the mirror, we're going to see that one play out.
Yeah, this is really interesting, too, because Bob, I think, knows how powerful that card is. And you've seen for a couple of the cards where Bob has kind of, made an emotional reaction and just goes, ugh, do I want to forcible that? I don't think so. Okay, that's fine. Top is a very scary card to let anyone have in play. It'll fix James's draw and make sure that the cards he's drawing are the relevant ones. He spins the top. He's happy with what he sees, and now he's going to try to go for a cruise.
All right. I want to see whether Bob decides to fight over this, and I think he will.
Yeah, there's Red Blast. He says Treasure Cruise is not resolving. One of the few cards looks like he's willing to fight over.
Right. Now, interesting spot. Bob has James tapped out. He has True Name Nemesis, and he's going to make his move. He has a Daze. He has a Force of Will plus a blue card. This was a perfect turn of events for Huang, and he resolved it without any fuss.
The 3-1 is in. It's kind of the breaker here. There's a Stoneforge Mystic, and that card's great. We all know that. We'll see if it'll resolve here. Bob is giving it some thought as he looks at his Force Will and his Daze along with the Brainstorm. Could use a Force Will removing a Daze. Brainstorm could be the last card, but does he really care?
Well, he could, and okay, I guess he's going to. He can go both ways with this. Once the Umezawa's GT gets on True Name Nemesis, there's something to be said for just protecting that combo and really ignoring everything your opponent's doing. It's unlikely that Pogue, even with a Resolve Stoneforge Mystic, will be able to put together a defense to True Name plus equipment.
Pogue's going to draw a card with his Sensei's Divine Top. That's a Force Will, remove a blue card. The blue card being removed is Treasure Cruise, as we are a long way away from that. So Pogue is going to win the fight. Stoneforge Mystic going to come into play. Of course, it's going to trigger. One thing to note here is that Sensei's Divine Top is going to be shuffled away.
Yeah, he had to lose his top to get that happening. That said, the game went from being this control scenario to a race. Now that there's GTs and, more importantly, there's True Name Nemesis in play, we're attacking each other. The damage is going to start happening, and it's going to be really hard for either player to put on the brakes. So suddenly things like Divining Top, things that build a lot of incremental advantage over every turn, becomes a lot less important than a Batter Skull right now.
Brainstorm will draw a Source of Plowshares, a Scalding Tarn along with the Stoneforge Mystic. Bob's draw for the turn was just the Wasteland that you can see in his hand. So a couple of cards going to go back here, but Bob's able to continue pushing his advantage because he has the best card in play right now, True Name Nemesis.
True Name Nemesis, nobody can actually touch that card. It
No.
has protection from James and all of James's things. And it's, yeah, I don't think in their main deck they have a way to answer it. So Bob's building this really large creature. James is going to have to build one back. It's going to be harder, though. There's Wastelands on Bob's side. Bob actually doesn't have defensive counter magic, so if James can really quickly find a True Name Nemesis, then the match gets really silly.
He needs to peel one like this turn, and that's a Tundra. That's not going to do it. And Bob knows the other card in his hand is a Batter Skull, so he can quickly untap and draw. He kept a copy of Swords.
Yeah, if he finds the True Name Nemesis, James will actually be ahead because his True Name would have a Batter Skull on it, but it has to happen this turn. You're absolutely right.
The window is very small. Stoneforge Mystic going to come in. There's a Batter Skull. One thing to note here, too, is James will draw a card. It's a Force Will. He's going to pack it up. Players will go to the sideboards. We'll go there in just a moment as well. But one thing to notice as we watch that game, both players opted to search for GT with their Stoneforge Mystic and not Batter Skull. Interesting. We oftentimes see them both. We oftentimes see, oh, Stoneforge Mystic, yeah, getting a Batter Skull unless he's already got the, maybe he's got Batter Skull in his hand already. But, just get your Batter Skull, work on getting a 4/4 in play. Neither player went that route.
And that's interesting. So there's a couple reasons that they could be doing that. If they just don't think the Batter Skull can win the game, then, and you think your Stoneforge Mystic is not long. First of all, your Stoneforge Mystic's going to die early. Batter Skull's not even that good. Well, why get it? Get something you can cast. Go ahead and get Umezawa's GT. The Batter Skull can happen later. Also, I think one of the ways to play this game could be stolen without a True Name Nemesis is if one player just delvers out the other player, plays a lot of early creatures. And in that scenario, I think your best defense is Umezawa's GT, not Batter Skull.
Interesting to see them both search for the same things, but again, they did work on their decks together, so it does make some sense. Bob does win game number 1 here over James as we take a look at the sideboards. We will start with Mr. Pogue. He has the more sideboard here. 3 Counterbalance, an additional Sensei's Divine Top to go along with the one in his main deck, 3 Pyroblast, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Containment Priest, a Wear Terror, Council's Judgment, a Sword of Feast and Famine, and a Grim Lavamancer. A lot of options here, Matthias.
Well, this is where I think this counterbalance package that he put in his sideboard, I think it comes in these Delver mirrors. I think this is what they wanted against similar decks to their own and against Blue-Red Delver, is they really wanted the ability to morph into the control deck. And you actually see both players have this package in their sideboard. Bob just didn't main deck the Divining Top.
Yep.
So what both players will have after board, and I believe they'll both be doing this, is 2 Divining Top, 3 Counterbalance. It's not as all in as you would expect out of a Miracles deck, but it's enough that that's a second way to win the game outside of True Name Nemesis. That said, I think you also want answers to True Name Nemesis, and you may even want answers to Counterbalance if you know your opponent's doing it. So cards like Council's Judgment suddenly become pretty good here. Also, copies of cards like Pyroblast, really hard to say no to those.
Yeah, Bob has a Red Blast and a Pyroblast in his main, and then he has a copy of Pyroblast in his sideboard. On James's side, he doesn't have any of those blast effects in his main deck, but he has 3 Pyroblasts in his sideboard. So the 75 cards are very, very similar. I don't think there's...
I think they're actually the same.
Outside of maybe the Meddling Mage that's in Bob's sideboard, because I don't think, James doesn't have one of those.
Grim Lavamancer. So their 75 is actually 1 card different. They just main decked different things. It was clear that they worked on them together, which had slight differences of opinion, but really this is gonna be a mirror match.
Clearly, their deck is pretty good because they're both 12-2 and they're playing for top 8 of the Grand Prix. I'm sure they wish they could go, hey man, let's shake hands,
Let's
draw to the top 8, but can't do that when there are 4,000 people in the tournament. You got to be 12-2, make it 13-2 to make the top 8 this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's always your dream, right, that you and your friend design a deck and then you both just take down the tournament with it.
Yeah.
They're not going to get to meet in the finals, but they're going to meet in a pretty important match.
This will be one they'll remember for a while here, but the victor will definitely have some bragging rights moving forward. Right now, it's leaning towards Bob, a legacy guru. He knows quite a bit about this format, and he is the reason that Treasure Cruise was put on the map right away. Again, winning the Open Series in New Jersey, not far from here. Actually, I take it all back. It was here, in this building. You and Patrick
it was
Sullivan.
this exact same building that he won it.
This is where Bob won it just about a month ago. First weekend of Constark here did come out. Matthias and Patrick took care of the coverage, and we watched Bob get the job done with Treasure Cruise, making Blue-Red Delver a deck, cutting the Wastelands. It's really his deck. He put on the map. People have changed a little bit, but oddly enough, Bob has stepped away from Blue-Red Delver. He's got this Jeskai build, and he likes it quite a bit, as you can tell.
I mean, Bob was the first player. I remember at that Open, a lot of people were saying, hey, I'm playing 2 copies of this Treasure Cruise. That's ridiculous. And then there was one guy, this is Bob Huang, and he said, I'm playing Treasure Cruise too. And he's like, how many are you playing? He's like, 4. He's like, whoa, okay. And people thought, and I'm playing Monastery Swift Spear. You're like, that card's just terrible. And he was definitely ahead of the curve on this one.
You know, it's one of those times where you have a deck that people aren't expecting, and I imagine that over the course of that weekend in New Jersey, he probably destroyed everybody, casting Treasure Cruises and Swift Spears and no Wastelands that people were probably playing around, and just had a beautiful build of Blue-Red Delver. Won that tournament relatively easily, and he's clearly having a very good weekend here, sitting at 12-2 with this change, but he still has Treasure Cruise, 4 of them. Doesn't surprise you.
Do have to keep in mind, while this could be for top 8, there are going to be a lot of players at 13-2. We can't say for certain what the implications of this match are going to be. We do know that the Pro Tour is on the line.
And that might be the most important thing here to the players. If they make top 8 or not, that's great, of course. But winner of this one is headed to the PT, and likely for the elimination rounds later today.
Yeah, it's about half of your X2s are going to make it in. There's nine people playing there's 9 spots, and actually I think only about 3 or 4 of the X2s are going to get in. So you're going to need to have some good tiebreakers.
James Pogue will be on the play here for game number 2. Remember, he started yesterday 9-0. Had a great day 1. Can't say he's had a bad day 2 or a bad tournament at all. He's sitting at 12-2 here, but he's got some work to do. Now he's going to take a mulligan.
Among some of the other players we have sitting at X and 2 playing for top 8 spots, Ross Miriam.
Yep.
He's playing, of course, Elves.
You can actually see him behind Bob over there a little bit in his Ice Import shirt with his name on the back.
Corey McDuffie from earlier today. Remember, he was one of the last undefeated players.
Yep.
Jarvis Yu also playing for top 8 here. A good number of players trying to get that spot.
I can't forget about Dan Jordan. He's won a Legacy Open before with Jeskai Delver. And that's our backup match if we do have time to jump that way. And heck, even we see lands there from Justin Bundens.
Yep. Lam Fan, and he was playing the land still
Yeah,
deck.
the blue-red land
Blue-red
still.
land still. He is fighting for a spot in the Pro Tour as well. Don't know which of these players are live for top 8 spots.
That comes down to tiebreakers.
That's a whole nother beast.
Scalding Tarn to start things off here for James. He's going to go down to 19, get himself a Tundra. We'll see what he has in the first turn. Be it a Delver or perhaps some cantrips.
Maybe even a Divining Top.
That wouldn't be so bad. It's going to be a Ponder. Take a look at the top 3 here. Included Delta, Lightning Bolt, and a Brainstorm to choose from.
It's interesting, despite the fact that these are Delver decks, this mirror plays out a lot more like a Stoneblade mirror when you think about it. I mean, these are 11 creature decks, and they're not tempo decks so much. Yeah, they play Daze, yeah, they play Wasteland, so there's some hybrid things going on, but you know, they're playing Stoneforge Mystic and True Name. This isn't as tempo-oriented.
Well, I mean, gone are the days of Temur and Delver, right? Where Stifle You, Daze this, you know, play Nimble Mongoose that you can't kill, play a big Tarmogoyf that you can't kill, maybe Submerge your Tarmogoyf. We don't really see that anymore. A lot of players opting for the white splash, as Stoneforge Mystic is very, very powerful.
I mean, Stoneforge Mystic was always one of the best 2-drops in the format, and I think we even saw some players, you know, Owen Turtenwald, for example, play Jeskai this kind of strategy. Well, I'm just going to play the creatures, the format's best creatures. But I think the real thing that pushed this over the edge was Treasure Cruise.
Yeah.
Temur, Delver, you know, Nimble Mongoose can't be played alongside Treasure Cruise, and these decks can.
Stoneforge Mystic going to search up Umezawa Shite again, by the way, not looking for Batter Skull. So 3 for 3 on the searching of Umezawa Shite first. Bob's going to sacrifice his Flutter Strand, get a Tundra himself, see if he has anything to do here, perhaps a Source of Plowshares. James has already put it over there, so it looks like that's going to resolve.
Yeah, it does get the GT though. Remember, Bob is plus 2
There's
cards here. Yeah, you can't just say swords. You actually have to play it.
It's like, Bob, I don't see a sword in your graveyard. But as you did mention, he has plus 2 cards because of the mulligan.
Right, and you see, so what that'll do is it'll incentivize Bob to trade a little more aggressively. You see he's on the draw, so he gets to do things like with these plus 2 cards, he can Wasteland James, that's a trade. He can counter spells and swords creatures. Those are also trades. He gets to play. He also has a Treasure Cruise in his hand. So Bob has a lot of reasons to be the control deck right now.
I say it almost incentivizes him to keep trading because he'll be able to gas back up with Treasure Cruise.
Right.
Though he is staring a Stoneforge Mystic right in the face that it looks like he does want to cast and maybe search a Vegeta with. So it's tough to say no to that on turn 2.
Yeah, he could switch up his own GT. If he had a counter spell for, say, something like a True Name Nemesis, I think this would be a lot closer. But because there's no real advantage to leaving mana open, he's going to go for the Stoneforge of his own.
Now, it looks like he might be taking out a Batter Skull instead of a Vegeta, though he is going through his deck and giving it some thought.
Well, he does have 2 Stoneforge Mystics in his hand.
Yep.
So in that sense, if you actually get to have your Stoneforge live, the bigger prize is Batterskull. I want to say the reason they're getting GT is that they don't expect these guys to live, so better get the equipment you can use. But if you have 2 Stoneforges, why not take the risk? Go ahead and get the Batterskull first. Your guy will probably die, and then when he does, your second Stoneforge will get your other equipment.
Makes sense. Batter Skull is what's been searched for. There's the bolt, so it does die.
Okay, he dies. I mean, that was expected, but that's why he has a buddy.
Here's a Ponder. Take a look at the top 3. There's another bolt, a sort of Feast and Famine, and a Stoneforge Mystic. So 3 really good cards staring James back in the face. See a Brainstorm ×2 along with a Force of Will and the GT in his hand right now. So decisions here for Pogue.
Yeah, he doesn't have a 3rd land, and if he keeps these cards, though they're good, he'll be stuck on lands. One of the questions is just how important lands are in this matchup.
Oh, both players have 20 in their deck. They have a higher land count than most, actually, this weekend. As Blue or Delver players have 16, and some, like Tom Martell, only had 15.
So right, here's the danger, and I think Bob's going to punish him on it. James missed the land drop, and he kept his hand knowing that Bob had a Wasteland on his side of the board. I mean, there's a lot of risks here. What if Bob on this turn dropped a 2nd Wasteland? Just
yikes.
Knocked James's board away. You know, James would have more or less Brainstorm locked himself with that Ponder.
And this is crossing your fingers and hoping he doesn't have a 2nd one, as he knows he really can't do a lot about it. This Stoneforge Mystic is going to resolve. Bob's going to very quickly search through his deck and find an equipment here.
I think this is the GT that he wanted all along.
Yep, there it is. And now he looks like he's probably going to fire off this Wasteland too. The question is, do you take care of the red or do you take care of the white?
Well, I don't know how many cards matter in either color. I suppose with the number of Pyroblasts around, I think I want to take care of the red mana. I value playing around Pyroblast more than I care about your Swords to Plowshares.
Bob agrees with you. And that means this Lightning Bolt that's just been drawn? Well, that's no good. So James is going to try to resolve a Brainstorm. That's good to go. We're looking for a land that taps for red. Misty Rainforest will do just fine.
Oh, fetch lands are still good with Brainstorm.
They sure are. James works his way out of a very ugly situation with this Brainstorm. So now he gets to keep playing Magic and likely Lightning Bolt that Stoneforge Mystic. So not a bad spot to be in.
You're going to see James put his weapons away here. Doesn't have a creature to put them on. Just going to want lands and spells for now.
Yeah, Sword of Feast and Famine does not look like the best card to have in this game. He's trying to work his way towards mana at this point, so he's so far away from that. It looks like he may be considering a Ponder. Just a lot of options here for James. He's going to put his 2 cards back. Brainstorm's done resolving. You know the fetch land's coming next, so he's going to play and sacrifice Misty. Go down to 18. Bob takes a temporary lead.
So easy to get back into this game. The danger on Pogue's side is that Bob is the player with the treasure cruises right now. And I think we're going to see that card once again shine and show why it's such a high priority in Legacy. Bob can just keep trading.
Well, there's the bolt. Got to keep Stoneforge off the table.
Yeah, and it's because of that Batterskull in Bob's hand that he really has to keep it off the table. Were it just the GT, James might be able to let that Stoneforge stick around.
Bob takes a look at his graveyard. 5 cards. Make it 6 with blue to Delta.
He may take this opportunity. He can have 3 lands in play. He can cast Treasure Cruise on 2. It'll be Daze proof. It's not Treasure Cruise for 1 mana, but it's pretty close. And getting those things to resolve is very important.
I think it's a fun thing, too, when players build their decks together and work together for a tournament. Maybe they're both like, yeah, we're going to sideboard Daze out, obviously, and you don't have to worry about that. And then maybe James leaves one in.
Leaves one in.
Yeah, who knows? A little game inside the game. But playing around Daze here is Bob, so here's a Treasure Cruise. And James says, I would like to try to counter that with a Force Will removing a Brainstorm.
Well, Treasure Cruise may only be a 2-for-1 instead of a 3-for-1, but Bob's going to Fluster Storm the Force of Will. And now it is a even better than a 3-for-1. It's a 4-for-1 that happened here.
Pyroblast, Treasure Cruise, and Volcanic Island were the draws, and Bob will pass it back. So he got 3 new cards. James will draw a card.
Should point out here that had James let that resolve, Bob would have had 8 cards in his hand and had to discard. So by starting a counter war, Bob just got to have everything. He would have had to discard the extra card anyway, so James actually just got rid of an extra card there.
It's another Stoneforge Mystic. It's searching, gonna get a Batterskull. James opting to leave up a Volcanic Island instead of maybe Wastelanding. But I do imagine that when your opponent just does draw 3 cards, maybe we're off the killer
I
lands
have
plan.
no interest in trading 1-for-1 permanents with the guy who just has an 8-card hand to tier 2.
Yeah, slow down a little bit, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I mean, James, this is the tough part because the guy who gets to resolve the first Treasure Cruise usually is the same one who resolves the second Treasure Cruise because the first one got him ahead in the counter war.
Yeah.
So it has this compounding thing that happens when you start drawing extra cards.
What's interesting about this is Bob is going to cast the Sensei's Divine Top. As you can take a look at his hand, the equipment over there, and all the other options. One thing he doesn't have right now is a removal spell for the Stoneforge Mystic. He's also looking at a Force of Will along with a Wasteland and a Ponder. So you see him running his hands through his hair. The reason is because I don't have a way to get this Stoneforge Mystic off the table right now. That's actually a little bit scary. Now, he can get a little creative if he'd like. Wasteland is among those cards, so he could actually draw the Wasteland off of the top or off of a Ponder or Brainstorm-esque effect and Wasteland the White Source and hope for the best. That looks like what he may be doing.
Yeah, I think he's just going to try to, like I said, trade resources as much as possible. You see that waste James off the white. It's the best answer as to Batterskull at the moment.
Top deck, Lightning Bolt.
Not going to help.
Umezawa's Jite.
Have to cast it, not sneak it into play with the Mystic.
It's going to resolve. Here's an attack for 1. We're going back Bob's way.
Can't help but shake the feeling that James is getting farther and farther behind here.
Yeah, I mean, he's treading on thin ice right now. Now, he draws a White Source. It might be Bob who's in the trouble then.
2 more copies of Treasure Cruise in Bob's hand. Number of cards is not going to be the problem. As long as Bob can find the correct answers to James' threats, he'll be just fine. But as far as cards that actually do something, Bob's a little light. He has Batterskull, Umezawa's Jite, Pyroblast, Sensei's Divining Top. There's some answers, kind of just some equipment sitting around. He has some Treasure Cruises, multiple, 2 of them actually.
There's the top. This is a Jite. Pass.
So if he plays out some of his cards here, then he can draw more. He's not under that much of a threat right now. Worst thing that happens is James draws a white mana source. Otherwise, James gets to put the equipment on Stoneforge, which is inconvenient, but not game-breaking.
The worst thing that can happen is here. It's a flooded strand.
Yeah, that Bob should be concerned at that.
He's going to spin the top, and I like the responding here so much. I'm so glad to see Pogue do this, is because he could say, you know, all right, spin your top, sure, untap, let you draw. And then when he tries to crack the fetch land, Bob says, well, I found a swords or a bolt, kill your guy. You don't get to put this in play. I love the fact that he's doing this right now. Shields are down. Crack, get your white source, put your batter skull into play.
Right. Well, he doesn't have to put the batter skull into play yet, but now that he has the white mana, there's no stopping it from happening.
Yep. There's no reason to get too creative. I feel like that's something players do a little bit too much with the fetch lands.
Well, you know, you establish these baseline habits, things like do things on end step or like crack my fetch when I need the mana. And that is usually correct, but then there's occasionally a situation where it's not, where you have to do the opposite, and James correctly identifies that this is one of those.
Taking a look at Force of Will, along with the Scalding Tarn here, is Bob. Again, he's so far ahead on cards, but can he beat the problems? Can he beat the Batter Skull? Can he beat the G-Tag? Can he beat the Stoneforge Mystic? Hard to say if the answer to that is yes right now.
Yeah, just needs to answer the board. He has plenty of cards.
It's an untap, it's a draw. Ponder is what he's found. That'll give him a shuffle for top if he'd like it to.
Well, if he spun a top and decided that that was the card he wanted, you probably would think that, yeah, that's what he's going to do. He could also just cast Batter Skull here. That's a little bit riskier of a play, but it might just stabilize him.
Well, he does know one of the cards in James's hand is is a Batter Skull. So the other card right now is a mystery. We all know it's a Lightning Bolt. And I like slamming this. I really do.
Yeah, remember there's not a card like Spell Pierce actually in their list, so it would just be Daze that he was playing around. And that's only one card. There have already been opportunities where if James had Daze, it would have been pretty good. I like this tap out on Bob's side.
Batter Skull in for Bob, and now Batter Skull in here for James. Pogue is going to untap. Lightning Bolt in hand, he'll draw a card. Somebody wants a Treasure Cruise, not a Force of Will.
Yeah, no blue card, no 5 lands. Force of Will, not an ideal draw here.
With the GT? Absolutely. Red Zone, is it time to trade? The answer is no. I thought there was a chance.
I thought it was going to trade, yeah. Now that there's GT counters, that trade's not available.
What's interesting about that to me too is that it wasn't a think about it and then take it. Bob was just like, yeah, I'm not trading at all. Like, that was a very quick, no trades. You get your counters, that's fine.
Well, he certainly is up to something. We'll see what it is. He finds counterbalance. He now has counter top.
But I don't know how
behind on the board.
Yeah, I don't know how important that is now.
I don't think so.
We're a little bit past that point. There was a window where that would be great, where James was kind of floundering around.
I mean, the truth, because of these treasure cruises, we were already in a situation that if Bob kills this germ token, he's probably great. You know, so counterbalance is just more of that. It's more of, oh, well, if I can clean up the board, counterbalance will help me win even harder. But that's not what he needs. He needs something that cleans up the board. He would like a Swords to Plowshares, for example. So see him shuffle off the Ponder, not wanting that counterbalance.
Let's see a mystery card. Here it comes. Oh, my goodness.
That was a good one. That wear tear was just about the best draw he could have had. I have to think right away he's just going to go right for the Batter Skull.
Yeah.
There's the shatter side, wear of wear tear.
He is casting that. Ponder giving him a mystery card indeed. GT or Batter Skull, it's his choice.
Imagine it's Batter Skull. We'll get a confirmation as to what he chose here.
Looks like maybe Lightning Bolt is going to go after something here, but
I think James was thinking he might have to GT and Bolt the German response, but yeah, the target is Batter Skull.
Yep.
Certainly, I think the scarier of the two equipment.
And it's gone now. So where will resolve? Now it's an equip of the GT. Here's an attack.
Here's where I think Pogue bolts and shrinks.
Yeah, he's going to try to, but I think that if you're Bob has a Force of Will and a blue card in his hand. He's got Force of Will. He's actually got 2 copies of Treasure Cruise. So I'm actually okay in this situation of using this a little bit aggressively and saying, I dare you to top deck against me. It's an aggressive line because James has a wear tear that he can draw on his end, but maybe it's just the aggressive nature in me, but that's what I want to do.
You're right. I think in that could get it there. You could also just start drawing more cards, but you're right. I think there's a good point to be had here. Even if you Treasure Cruise, force pitching Treasure Cruise, you still get to have Treasure Cruise.
Yep. So Bolt resolves. Now the Batter Skull token too. It's going to get -1/-1.
All right, a congratulations on the side to Ross Merriam, completing the 13-2 record, requalifying him for the Pro Tour, so he'll be in attendance for Pro Tour DC. Will he be here for our top 8? We're going to have to stick around and find out if he makes that cut.
Got the job done with Elves. So congrats to him. As now here's an equip, there's an attack. This is just a very interesting situation that we have here. Because, you know, is Bob okay with these exchanges where now the GTA has counters on it again? There's a creature out there. I believe James drew a blue card. He could have been much more aggressive with his Force of Will, and he opted not to be. Gonna spin the top. Council's Judgment, along with 2 fetch lands.
He likes the Council's Judgment a fair amount here. He can just, remember, 1-for-1 trading is right up Bob's alley right now because of all these Treasure Cruises. So I think he'll take it just because that's definitely in his interest.
Quickly casting the Council's Judgment, leaving a Pyroblast available. Force of Will be cast, removing a Ponder.
Because James is so far behind on cards, he has to make decisions like this. He has to force pitching his last card, but Bob's going to no-sir this and keep the fight going.
Now, again, the question is, what is he going to kill? Because James actually has to make his move with the GT here of, okay, remove the 2 counters. Now he's just going to kill the GT.
Right, so James just left with the 1-2, no cards in hand. He's playing off the top of his deck, and they have to be good because Bob's going to start drawing 3 as early as next turn.
It all starts with a Treasure Cruise to me. Some sort of blue cantrip. Ponder, Cruise. Brainstorm's not great in this situation because he has no cards in his hand, but it's better than nothing. I think it's just a land.
I
just going to
believe
pass
you're
the turn
right.
back, yeah. Huang going to draw a card. He can gas back up if he wants to. He's got 6 cards down there.
Crack a fetch to make it 7.
Yep.
He'll do just that.
It'll also give him a clean look at Sensei's Divining Top if he'd like, but he's starting to pull away now. He was very conservative with the Force of Will. Let the Batter Skull Germ token go, but it's A-okay.
And here comes the second boat.
There it is. So Bob will draw 3, a Flooded Strand, a Wasteland, and a Force of Will.
Weaker 3 there, but
yeah, but 3 cards nonetheless.
3 cards nonetheless. He can still end of turn bounce this Batter Skull and just recast it. He doesn't actually need to find very much.
Sensei's Divining Top.
See if he lets that one go.
He very quickly let it resolve. Yep. Would you counter there?
Hard to say. I probably would have.
There's something about having a top and play that I don't like.
Yeah, he has to out-top deck me to win the game, and I don't think I want him to have a Divining Top to make that happen.
Bob's going to pick up his
I trust
skull.
Bob on this one. I think if he's played it more.
I'm going to spin the top 2. Take a look. The Tundra, Scalding Tarn, and Source of Plowshares. Looks like he wants that removal spell. See, the life total is 24-7 in favor of Pogue. Swords added to the hand. It's time to redeploy.
7 lands now in play. He gets to cast Batter Skull and leave up land. Put a stop to this attack from Stoneforge Mystic.
Yeah. There's Batter Skull. There's your Germ token. Looks like Wasteland may fire off. It will. Gonna take care of the red source of mana. This will allow Pogue to spin the top really quick. Take a look at a Pyroblast, Council's Judgment, and a Grim Lavamancer. Gotta leave the Judgment on top.
Yeah, he's wasting James off red mana and then leaving James with red cards on top of his deck.
Judgment the draw, cast it. This is where he'll fight. Force of Will, removing Treasure Cruise. No Council's Judgment for you. No attacks, of course. We're heading back Bob's way. He's going to spin that top. Take a look at a couple of lands in a Brainstorm now.
And you can tell Bob picks up his pace here. He knows it. Pogue knows it.
Yep.
Bob's going to be headed to the Pro Tour here.
Quickly equipping the GT and attacking for 4. He's going to go up to a very safe 10. Pogue is going to go down to 20. The tide has officially turned on this game. Kill your Stoneforge Mystic with the GT counters. Leave you with red cards on top of your deck. Stare at a Force of Will and a Brainstorm along with the swords. He can play the fetch land to shuffle, clear the top, take a look at some new cards. James is going to spin with Wasteland on his upkeep. Take a look at the bolt.
Red card, something else.
Yep.
Can it help him? We'll see.
This is a new one. That's a Treasure Cruise.
Normally it would be excellent. Remember that the top 2 cards are both really bad.
Yeah, I don't want this resolving, though. I don't want him to have the opportunity to clear his top. You know.
Yeah.
Again, it's just I'm aggressive in situations like this, but he's just going to let it resolve.
Red card, and True Name Nemesis. It's great, except that Bob got rid of all of James's equipment.
Yeah. Gonna spin the top.
Can, however, if it resolves here, block this Germ token.
Sword of Feast and Famine now. Ooh la la. I would want to draw that one.
I would. I'm not opposed to drawing it.
You get to have so much fun.
It's really fun. That's certainly true.
He's going to sacrifice this.
Yeah, I think I understand. It's not about making his big creature even bigger. It's about closing out off outs. Sword of Feast and Famine does not do that.
I'm going to spin the top again. See what these new 3 cards are. Swords, a Counterbalance, and a Force Will. Those are a little better.
And now he has Counterbalance, quickly shuffled to the top. He's going to establish the countertop lock here.
Yep.
With Force of Will, blue card, Counterbalance, Divining Top. The outs are closed.
It feels like a pretty hard lock now. 4 damage going to come across. Bob going to go to 13. James going to go down to 15.
2 more turns for Bob Huang.
Spin the top.
Counterbalance, Brainstorm, Sword of Feast and Famine. None of these get him out of this position.
Quick update for you guys. Dan Jordan wins the backup match 2-0. He's playing Blue-Red Delver this weekend, so he's qualified for the Pro Tour again, but will he be in the elimination rounds? We will find out, as here's True Name Nemesis. Trigger with the counterbalance, spin the top, see if there's a 3. There's a Brainstorm, looks like a top and a Force of Will.
So needs just 2 more attacks. The True Name certainly won't resolve. It's going to get Force of Willed. Last card in James's hand does not have Force plus blue card. He has at least 2 red cards there.
It's just not helpful. Bob's going to untap. He'll take a draw.
Here's attack number 1.
Maybe for 4. No need to pump just yet. Hopefully he remembers to put those charge counters on the GT. It looks like he may have forgotten.
Yeah. He may have pumped.
He may have pumped, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yep, and he's at 7, so no forgets.
And the next attack could be for 8. Just a Brainstorm remains in Pogue's hand.
Let's see what the draw is going to be. Sword.
He knows it. He doesn't spin top there because he's committed to Brainstorming instead.
Yeah. Bob with a Force Will, necessary mana.
I mean, I don't think there's a card James Pogue can draw here. I think Divining Top plus Counterbalance will clean up just about anything.
Yeah. Gonna spin. Counterbalance, a Scalding Tarn, and another Tarn.
It's not gonna do it. Let's just confirm it here.
Yeah, this is kind of the go through the motions aspect of it.
This is the moment, right?
Yeah. He's going to draw a card with top. This will give him red mana because of Tarn.
It's a fetch land.
Yep.
Has his land for the turn, so that's the start. He's got Scalding Tarn. I think he's going to crack it, and then Brainstorm just gets 3 more looks.
Well, he would like to get 3 more looks. I have a feeling Counterbalance may play a role here.
Yeah, Bob may not let him resolve things at all.
James is trying, hoping that his friend makes a mistake. That's what this is. I think we're going to see him maybe try to Pyroblast the Counterbalance, maybe start a war that way. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think he has enough mana to do that. I think he just has to go for Brainstorm.
And he already has 1 on top of his deck. And that is going to do it. Bob Huang is going to win this match over James Pogue. 2-0. You can see friends don't want to play each other in this sort of situation, but someone's got to walk away the victor, and it will be Bob Huang. He wins with Jeskai Delver. He's 13-2. He's headed to the Pro Tour, and with any luck, he's headed to our elimination rounds in just a little bit.
Congratulations again to Bob Huang. This is his second tournament in a row in this very building where he is really cleaned up both times with the help of Delver and red cards. Will he make the top 8 though? We will see. That one still has some pressure on it.